Are we underestimating Alabama? I know that seems like an odd question to say considering it's Alabama of all people under Nick Saban, but that's just the main question that I keep thinking about. You know, when you watch SEC Media Day, when you watch the coverage around it, and even in the few weeks leading up to SEC Media Day, there's one narrative and one narrative only coming out of the West, and it's how good is this LSU team? They went 10-4 last year, really really good first season out of Brian Kelly. I certainly wasn't a believer and Brian Kelly heading into year one. Didn't think that LSU team was going to be any good, especially after that Florida State opener where, man, that just looked like a bad, unorganized football team that had a lot of work to do. I thought they were going to win maybe 8, 9 games, not 10, and not play for the SEC title. Definitely thought Alabama was going to get back there and play Georgia again in the SEC title, but that just didn't work out. But now you look at it, and LSU brings back a lot of key pieces. They bring back a lot of talented members on their defense, like Mason Smith and Harold Perkins. Sorry, I blanked on his name. And also on offense, you bring back starting quarterback Jaden Daniels along with Malik Neighbors at receiver, who, in my opinion, may win the Blitnikoff Award this year. If he has the season that a lot of people are expecting from him after what we saw from him against Georgia in the SEC championship game, there's no doubt in my mind he can be one of the best receivers in the country this year. Not better than the two out of Ohio State, but he's going to be one of them. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to obviously be big competition for Blitnikoff, but that's not the point here. A lot of people are talking LSU in the SEC West. And, for folks like Georgia fans, people who follow Georgia, it's like, that makes you uncomfortable a little bit because Alabama's not being talked about. And what is the one thing that Nick Saban loves more than anything? It's that good old rat poison. It's the tell my team they're not good, they're not favorites. Tell them they're the underdog. Tell them there's teams out there that are better than them. And right now, it seems like a lot of people are telling Alabama LSU's better than them. Coming off of a year where, yes, they lost to LSU in the regular season. Great game. Really great game. Jaden Daniels won that game for them late. Right there. Really great game. Alabama lost. And now it's like, we're forgetting about Alabama to an extent. Now, I will say, when you're talking about Alabama football and what their chances are this season, there is good reason to kind of maybe be skeptical of what they're going to do. A lot of people thought they were going to be back in the national championship last year because they had the most talented team in college football. And it's certainly on paper, they did. You go look at 247 Sports talent, team composite. They were number one. They had two first-round draft picks on that team, at least 2 first-round draft picks in Bryce Young and Will Anderson. They probably should have won based off the talent they had, but they didn't. They underperformed, way underperformed, in my opinion. Get that Sugar Bowl win against Kansas State. But you look at what they have this year. You lose Bryce Young. You lose Will Anderson. You lose Jahmyr Gibbs. You lose both coordinators. Bill O'Brien back to the NFL, to the New England Patriots. You lose your defensive coordinator, Pete Golding. And I don't think that's as much losing him as more of not wanting him back because his defense is underperformed. That's just the truth here. Pete Golding never really impressed me at Alabama, and nobody really has defensive coordinator-wise since Kirby Smart left. Hey, that may be bias, but I think when you go look at statistics and you go look at some of the defenses that they've put on the field recently compared to what Kirby Smart did, Kirby Smart's units were a lot better at Alabama. But what's the big conversation around Alabama this year? It's not what they lost. It's kind of what they have returning, or really not returning, but more so what they're dealing with right now. Yes, they lose Bryce Young, but they've lost great quarterbacks in the past before. They lost Mac Jones a few years ago in 2020, heading in 2021, replace him with another Heisman winner in Bryce Young. Lost Tua, you replace him with Mac. You lose Jalen Hurts to the transfer portal, you replace him with Tua. So they've had a stretch here of really, really good quarterbacks, and this year it doesn't look like that, at least coming into it. Jalen Milroe's your most experienced quarterback, and he's very limited experience. Started a couple games last year when Bryce Young went down with an injury. Didn't garner many positive reviews in the starts he made. Had that narrow win over a really bad Texas A&M football team. And you look at who else is all competing with them. I personally was never impressed with Jalen Milroe. Had, some dynamic legs to him. Can make plays with his legs, but in current world of college football, you got to do more than just be able to run the football as a quarterback. You got to pass the ball, and you got to pass it effectively. And I didn't see that from Jalen Milroe last year. What would they do? They went to the portal. They got Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame, again, from what I saw from him last year, wasn't very impressed with him. From all sounds of it, he wasn't going to start at Notre Dame, which is why he left. Obviously, they brought in a transfer over there and Sam Hartman to be their starting quarterback. Who's going to start there? It looks like it's Milroe versus Buckner, but don't count out the former 5-star Ty Simpson. He's my favorite out of all of them. I think by the end of this year, I don't think it's a hot take. I think maybe a lot of people agree with this. I think Ty Simpson's going to be their quarterback at some point this season. I don't have faith in the other two, and I just think that's the way it's going to play out. Now, you look at everything else. We talked about the turnovers and coordinators. I don't know the last time, and I don't think there's ever been a champion in college football that has won with 2 new coordinators. I don't know. I believe I saw that stat the other day. There's been no one to win a championship with 2 new coordinators. Maybe I'm not thinking of somebody, but, history tells you, well, Alabama may not win it. I know they got Tommy Rees, who, to me, an underrated hire, somebody that I didn't see going and getting that job from Notre Dame. But he's not going to run Notre Dame's playbook. He's going to run the Saban system, the Alabama system that Bill O'Brien used. And to be honest with you, the Bill O'Brien era in Alabama wasn't very great compared to the past. I mean, you look at the offensive coordinators that he's had in the past in the last few years, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, both have gone on to get head coaching jobs after leaving Alabama. O'Brien, yes, I guess he got an elevation to the NFL, but it wasn't never blew me away with anything. And maybe that's just because he wasn't comfortable in that playbook. How does Tommy Rees adapt to that? It's not his playbook. He's learning someone else's system. How does he run it? Right now, the expectation as they get back to more of the basics, what made Alabama football special at the beginning of Saban's era, and run the football more. Hey, you got a good running back to do it. Jason McClellan, I think he's probably going to be one of the top running backs in the league this coming year in the SEC. Excited to see what he can do. Defensively, you lose Will Anderson, but you bring back a top corner and Kool-Aid McKinstry. And I think a lot of people were let down by the Kevin Steele defensive coordinator hire, but he's been solid. I know he didn't do great at Miami. Had a very lackluster time there. But you go look at his history at Alabama, he gave Saban fits with his Auburn defense. Excuse me, I think I said Alabama there, but Auburn. When he was at Auburn, gave Alabama fits on defense. So I really don't have a question about those two, but just to me, I don't feel comfortable saying that Alabama's not going to be a good football team or Alabama's not going to be in the running for the SEC West. I think when you see this SEC Media Day poll and Georgia's number 1, LSU's number 2, and Alabama's number 3, that makes me very uncomfortable. I think it makes Saban happy because for the first time in a few years now, he's not the favorite to win the SEC West. He's not having to fight against complacency on his own team. That's scary to think about. That Alabama is potentially underestimated is scary to think about what they can do. I know people are going to be in the comments. If people are watching this, you're going to be in the comments saying, well, they were favorites to win last year and they didn't do it. So why would I pick them to win this year? I understand that. I really do. But there's just something about underdog Alabama that doesn't make me feel comfortable. In the West, Georgia's the favorite, and that's why Kirby Smart is fighting against complacency. That's what, he's learned from Nick Saban. You have to fight against the complacency because it sets in very quickly when you're winning and winning at a high and elite level. It sets in quick. That's why he's fighting against it. Better never rest. It's the new mantra. Over in the West, I don't think Alabama has to worry about that this year. For the first time in I don't know how long, it doesn't seem like they have to worry about that. It seems like they are being counted out at every step because they don't have the returning quarterback. They don't. LSU does. LSU has an elite, or at least in my opinion, probably going to be recognized as an elite receiver in Malik Neighbors coming back this year and have some talent on that team. Alabama doesn't have much returning on offense, which is probably why people are not thinking that they're going to win the SEC West. So, yeah. Who am I picking to win the SEC West? I'm leaning towards LSU today, but can I see Alabama doing it? Certainly. Certainly can I see them doing it. If they come out and they find their quarterback and they don't have kind of turnover in that department, if they find a quarterback that can be their guy for all 15 games, if they go to the national championship, They will certainly and can win the national championship. I just want to remind folks, don't feed into the rat poisoning of Nick Saban. This is all what he wants. This is all he's ever wanted. Count him out. Count him out. Tell his team that he's not going to win this US, and he'll go and do it.